Madhava Radha Govardhana ki jai, Krishna Balaram Giri Govardhana ki jai, Gaur Nitai ki jai, Gaur. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This morning we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 2, Text 25. Vasudevasya devakyam Jato Bojendra Bandhane Chikirshu Bhagavanasya Samajina Biyachchita Vasudevasya devakyam Jato Bojendra Bandhane Chikirshu Bhagavanasya Samajina Biyachchita Vasudevasya, of the wife of Vasudeva, Devakyam, in the womb of Devaki, Jata, born of Bhoja Indra, of the king of the Bhojas, Bandhane, in the prison house, Chikirshu, for doing, Bhagavan, personality of Godhead, Asya, of the earth, some welfare, Ajina, by Brahma, Abhiyachchita, being prayed for. Translation: the personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, being prayed to by Brahma to bring welfare to the earth, was begotten by Vasudeva in the womb of his wife Devaki in the prison of the king of Bhoja. Purport: although there is no difference between the Lord's pastimes of appearance and disappearance, that the devotees of the Lord do not generally discuss the subject matter of his disappearance. Vidura inquired indirectly from Uddhava about the incident of the Lord's disappearance by asking him to relate Krishna Katha, or topics on the history of Lord Krishna. Thus Uddhava began the topics from the very beginning of his appearance as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki in the prison of Kamsa, the king of the Bhojas, at Mathura. The Lord has no business in this world, but when he is so requested by devotees like Brahma, he descends to the earth for the welfare of the entire universe. This is stated in Bhagavad Gita 4.8. Paritranaya sadhunam vinasaya chadushritam dharma samstapana taya sambhavami juge juge. Vasudevasya devakyam jato bojendra bandhane chikirshu bhagavanasya sam ajina biyachchita. Translation: the personality of God, Lord Sri Krishna, being prayed to by Brahma to bring welfare to the earth, was begotten by Vasudeva in the womb of his wife Devaki in the prison of the king of Bhoja. The prison of the king of Bhoja. Here in this chapter, we're reading how Vidura is asking questions of Uddhava. And Prabhupada says that, here he explains in his purport that Vidura wanted to actually know how the Lord had left this world, but he didn't want to bring it up directly because he knew that Uddhava, being a very dear devotee of Lord Krishna, would not be very palatable for Uddhava to talk about something like that, about the Lord's disappearance from the world, because he was very close to Krishna. So when you have a loved one and you're with them a long time and you're very, very affectionate to them over a long period, then their departure from the world is, of course, is very painful, and quite often people don't even like to discuss it. It brings too much emotion to them and too much pain to their hearts. So actually the Acharyas explain that there are basically two reasons why the very dear devotees, especially like Uddhava, don't like to talk about Krishna's disappearance from the world. One reason is, as I've explained, that Uddhava, being very close to Krishna, was very painful for him to hear anything about the Lord's departure. And the other reason is that that the Lord's departure from the world can be misunderstood. Can be misunderstood, especially by very materialistic persons, in the way he left the world. And in fact, you know, when we follow our Vaishnav calendar, we have the appearance day, we have festivals on appearance days of the various incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we have observances and ceremonies and so on and so forth. We always see the appearance day. We never see the disappearance day of Lord Vamana, or the disappearance day of Lord Matsya, the disappearance day of Lord Kurma, or Lord Nrsimhadev. We always see the appearance, and the appearance of Lord Krishna. The appearance, today is the appearance of Sita Devi. Today is Radhashtami, the appearance of Srimati Radharani. We don't see the disappearance. Of course, we see the disappearance of the Acharyas, you know, like today is the appearance of celebration of Srila Prabhupada, and today is the disappearance. Because the Acharyas have come and they've taken material bodies. And so they've entered within material bodies, so the body is born, and the body ceases to exist. So therefore there's an appearance to that body, and then there's a disappearance to that body. So because both the appearance, even of coming into the body, and the disappearance going out of the body of great gurus and acharyas, is actually auspicious to remember that, and how they appeared in the world and how they left the world is actually very auspicious. And on the absolute level, it is non-different, because they're spiritual coming into the world, into a particular body, and they'll continue their spiritual existence. There's a difference in the mood, you know, we're losing the association of such a great individual. So, but on the absolute level, there is no difference. And actually, I want to read to something I included in my Srila Prabhupada Vyasa Puja offering, Vyasa Puja homage this year. And it's a quote from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And this was his mood on the departure of his father, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who's another one of our great gurus in our line of gurus. And his father's departure, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And this is what he wrote. He writes in this way: today is a day. Now this is on his father's departure from the world. He writes this: today is a day of great happiness, and not the slightest grief. Today our Master has re-entered the eternal pastimes of the Lord. Now it is our duty to remember his eternal position, his name, his qualities, his form, and his pastimes. Henceforth, we will follow in his footsteps with even greater concentration. So I included it in my homage to Srila Prabhupada because, over the years I've had mixed feelings on how one should feel. Of course, generally we understand the appearance of the great acharyas, the disappearance, and a little bit mixed emotions. But here we have the feeling of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur to his guru and his direct father, who disappeared from the world. So we're totally transcendental, totally on the absolute platform. There was no mix of of dualities there in the consciousness of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So he felt like that his father was a Nityasiddha, eternally liberated soul coming into the world, and a Nityasiddha going out of the world. So really there's no difference for them. The difference is for those of us who are totally identified with our material bodies. This is who I am, and now I'm going to be no more. And those around us, he's going or she's going to be no more. And we lament, we're very emotional, we cry, and so on and so forth. In just losing that personality, that the direct physical presence of that personality. So that's a position of subjectivity, of duality, of relativity in the world. People come in the world, people go from the world. But someone on an absolute platform, they see things differently. It's hard to understand from someone on the material platform, but someone on the the sojourn of life in the material world for the liberated soul is just a brief flash, because in the viewpoint of eternality. They come for a short time. They're assisting the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his mission of trying to uplift the conditioned souls of the world. So they come here for a brief time, and then they continue on in their eternal existence. So for the position of someone who's liberated like that, and someone like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, I can understand in one sense. I'm not on that platform obviously, but I can understand why he would see it in that way. He's on that absolute platform. Of course, now when you get to the position of Uddhava, now his feeling of sorrow, his feeling of not wanting to discuss the matter is a little bit different again, because it's a question of that intimacy of association that he had with the Lord in that particular circumstance. There are certain flavors and certain relationships that, in the spiritual world, in the eternal realm of Krishna's land, in the spiritual world, they have the, in Dwarkadam and Mathuradam and Vrindavan Dham, there's relationships eternally going on, and there are certain activities that go on, and that's eternal activities in the spiritual. But in the material world, they're manifested in one sense temporarily, but they have certain flavors. They have certain flavors that are perhaps different from what they are in the spiritual realm. So that flavor, that intensity of relationship was very much felt by someone like Uddhava, and so he's lamenting. So now Vidura could understand that, being a great devotee himself. Being a very great devotee, he can understand that he didn't want to directly ask, about, can you tell me about how Krishna left the world? And because he knew it would be hurtful and painful for Uddhava to talk about that. So he could understand. But he wanted to know, and he wanted to know for the benefit of all people of the world. And so he indirectly asked, tell me the history of Krishna and all the activities, and and then he would come, obviously, to the end of Krishna's manifest pastimes in the world. And so he wanted to hear about it in that way. Now, Prabhupada actually goes on to say here, that Leela, it's called Mosala Leela. Mosala Leela is the end pastimes of Krishna, manifest pastimes in this world, of Krishna in this world, when he came to this world 5,000 years ago. Of course, Krishna comes again and again and again and again, and he comes in many universes. It's said that the pastimes continue on in this universe, they go on in other universes, almost simultaneously they're going on, inconceivably to us. We can't understand. And many of the liberated souls accompany Krishna to different universes to engage in these leelas. Now he's come to this universe. He came most recently 5,000 years ago. He manifested his pastime for 125 years in this world, and then after 125 years he left this world. And so Vidura wanted to hear about that, and how Krishna left this world, how he brought an end to his whole dynasty, the Yadu dynasty, very unpleasant. And actually the Acharyas explain that fighting at the end between his Yadu dynasty, who were very dear to each other, sometimes the Acharyas and devotees have asked, how could Krishna allow such a very devastating end happen amongst his very dear family members. How could he allow it to happen? That question has been asked by various devotees related. And then the acharyas explain, actually Krishna wanted to show, there were a few reasons. Krishna generally doesn't act just with one reason. There were a few reasons that, one reason was that he wanted to show, even though they're eternal, the Nitya Siddhas, of course some of them were with demigods come in his family, that's one thing. And the others were Nitya Siddhas, who are the eternal associates who accompanied Krishna. Some were demigods who had been asked to assist the Lord, given an opportunity. And so he wanted to show that even, close family members who get on very affectionately, there can be trouble. And that life in the world is temporary. There can be fighting. It can become devastating. It can become deadly, as it did with the Yadus. And the acharyas explain that actual leela really, promotes detachment from worldly attachment. Because ultimately we're going to leave the world. We can't take our family members with us. So, we have to, Prabhupada one time he said that at the end of the life one has to fly one's own kite. Your family members can be around you and give you emotional support and so on, and spiritual support, and so on and so on. But at the end, there's you and there's Krishna, and then you have to get yourself in the right consciousness, and so on and so forth. So, if you're overly attached to so many things in the world, and if the world is just to you, everything is very pleasant, then the right amount of detachment won't be there. So Krishna wanted to show that as far as detachment and how things can go down. And we know that, especially, in the Kali Yuga, that there can be very horrendous relationships amongst siblings in the same family, even close. Formerly they were very close together. Father and mother, and a wife and husband, and brother and sisters, and daughters and fathers, and brothers, and so on and so forth. There can be a lot of, they can be very affectionate, but at times can be very, very distasteful. Can lead to very horrendous situations where the siblings, sometimes kill each other, and so on and so forth. And you read about this all the time. So Krishna wanted to show in a grand way that even on that level there can be a lot of trouble. That was one thing. The other thing was that especially the demigods who had taken birth to assist Krishna, but not only the demigods but all of them to a certain degree, had become a little overconfident, a little, as the acharyas may, a little bit haughty about that they were close associates of Krishna, and Krishna is our family member, and we're associates of him, and so they became a bit proud. And once Krishna left, there were two aspects to this. One, Krishna left. Krishna he knew that his manifest time was coming to an end. His mission had more or less been fulfilled. He knew that it was coming to an end. And once he left, that there would be two things. The Yadus would be very much demoralized by his leaving all of a sudden, because they were so attached to him, and who knows what they would do. They were so powerful, they were indefeatable. They might run amok and just destroy everyone on earth. The acharyas, but that might have been a possibility. That after Krishna left, who knows what they could have done, and there would have been no one could have stopped them either. So that was one reason, and they were a little bit proud, so we didn't like to see them proud, and of course the feeling of separation might have been too much, and all sorts of consequences could have happened. So that leela of Krishna leaving the world, when you go, I've been there to that part of India, in Gujarat, western Gujarat, right on the Arabian Sea, very beautiful part of India, and you can go there. There is a Dwarka, you can go to Dwarka. Rukmini Dwarkadish is the main temple of Rukmini Dwarkadish right on the coast there. And you can go to the Bay Dwarka, which is an island off the coast. You take a ferry over there. You go over there, and then down you can take you can ride down the coast further down. There's a famous place called Porbanda there, which is the birthplace of Mahatma Gandhi. There's a big museum there and everything like that. You can go in there and see Mahatma Gandhi's birthplace there, Porbanda, which also previously was known as Sudama Viprapuri, which is the place of Sudama Brahmana. That was his birthplace, now known as Porbanda. And when you go a little bit further, there's a place called Somnath, very beautiful place, a very beautiful temple there. It's a temple of, there's a Shiva lingam in there, temple of the moon god. There's a whole history there. When you go there, you'll learn all this history, how Chandra was cursed by Daksha to get some sort of leprosy, and he decreased in his glow, and he prayed to Lord Shiva, who helped him, and he also came and dipped in that holy water there. When you take a dip there, it's considered very liberating. And so there's a story of Somnath. Now near there's the place where Krishna and Balaram a little bit further, you can go to both these places, where Krishna left this world. There's the place, you can visit the place, Prabhaschetra, of where the Yadavas were fighting at the end there, and you can visit the place of where Krishna left the world, and you can visit the place where Balaram left the world. You know, after the Yadus killed each other in a fratricidal war, everyone, those who have been devotees for a while know that history there, that they killed each other, in a drunken state. And so then Krishna went off, and Lord Balaram went off in a certain place. You can go there, and when he went into meditation, and it is said that Lord Ananta came from out of Balaram's body, and then he went into the ocean like that. That's how he finalized his pastimes in the world. Now Krishna went to a place. I went to this very beautiful temple there, and that temple is Krishna sitting. I've got a photo of myself. Kalasamvara took a photo of myself outside that temple, and in the temple in the back. And Krishna's sitting down, and he's got his left leg over his right knee, and his foot is exposed like that. And so he's sitting like that. And then there's a deity of Jara the hunter, who's praying, kneeling before Krishna with folded hands. And that is a very beautiful temple. A lot of pilgrims go there. It's packed out. You can hardly get in there. And it's a very wonderful temple. You can go in there. Now, the story there is, of course, that Krishna left that area. Krishna and Balaram also took part in that fratricidal fighting at the end. Of course, they can't be killed. And so Krishna left there, and he went into some type of meditation. And he sat like that, with his leg crossed over his knee like that. And then Jara came, and he was a hunter, and he saw the exposed foot from a distance, and he mistook it for the face of a deer, and he shot an arrow. There's a whole story of the arrow that, we know the story of the Samba and the cursing of the boys by the Narad Muni and Vishvamitra and all the sages, that they would give birth. Samba would give birth to a club, an iron club that would be the cause of the end of the dynasty. So Ugrasena had a ground up thrown in the ocean. There was a little lump left. The ground up pieces came into the reeds. They became like iron, and so that's the story. You can read that story very nicely told especially in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then the other little bit that was left, Jara went into a fish. The fish was caught by a fisherman, and then that little lump was taken out of the fish, and Jara got it and made an arrow out of it. So he fired that arrow. Now it is said that Jara, there's two descriptions of who Jara was in his former life. Srila Madhvacharya, he says that Jara in his former life was Bhrigu Muni. Bhrigu Muni, who offended Lord Vishnu in the Vaikuntha by kicking him on the chest just to test him, but it was really kind of offensive. So Lakshmi didn't like that, that Bhrigu had kicked her husband in the chest. So she cursed Bhrigu and all Brahmanas to never have her favour. So generally Brahmanas are very poor because of the curse of Lakshmi Devi, one thing. And also Bhrigu had to get reaction to that kicking of the foot and had to become a Sudra. And he came back as Jara. Now that's one account. Now another account in the Mahabharata is told that Jara was formerly Bali Maharaj, who Lord Ramchandra in his Leela had killed. Sugriva had challenged Bali Maharaj to come out and face him in a duel, and then Lord Ram was hiding behind a tree, and he shot an arrow and killed Bali Maharaj. So when he was talking to Bali Maharaj asked him why he killed him so unfairly like that. So Lord Ramchandra explained the reasons why, and Bali Maharaj in the end accepted those reasons for Lord Ram killing him like that. But he said in my next Leela, you will have the chance to kill me. I'll arrange it that you'll have the chance to kill me. And he came back as Jara, and he fired the arrow. So then that was that pastime. So there's different versions there. My conclusion is that in different times that Krishna descends, maybe Brigu came the one time as Jara, and another time Bali Maharaj came as Jara, so like that. I was just in America, and I was giving a class on Radhastami, and I was explaining that when Radharani appears in the world, she comes in different ways according to the different kalpas. Sometimes she appears directly in the womb of Kirtida. Sometimes there's one description of she came floating down the Jamuna on a big lotus flower, and Rishabhanu. And another time that the goddess Katyayani gave an oval box to King Vrishabhanu, and so she appears in different ways in different kalpas. So Krishna comes and displays pastimes a little bit differently. And so Jara can be Bhrigu Muni in one life, and or Bali Maharaj in another life come again as Jara. But anyway, it's a beautiful temple. So now the description there is that, now going to the point of what I said about Krishna's pastimes could be misunderstood, and therefore this is one of the reasons the acharyas and the devotees in general don't like to talk about it that time, because the people might say, oh, well, he's an ordinary person just like you, and he was shot by an arrow and he was killed and he died like an ordinary person, so he's just ordinary like the rest of us. But actually, there's explained there by the gurus and acharyas that Krishna wound up his pastimes, and before he wound up his pastimes, the demigods came to see him, and headed by Lord Brahma, and they wanted to actually have darshan of Krishna. That was their main reason for coming. But they came, and I'll just read you what Lord Brahma said to Krishna. He says, "My dear Lord, there is nothing remaining at this time for your lordship to do on behalf of the demigods." Remember, in this verse, it stated that Lord Krishna was prayed to by the demigods to alleviate the burden of the demons on earth who had taken birth on earth. So therefore Krishna had come, and he had a mission. And so here he's saying that there's nothing remaining at this time for your lordship to do on behalf of the demigods. You have already withdrawn your dynasty by the curse of the Brahmanas. O Lord, you are the basis of everything, and if you so desire, kindly return now to your own abode in the spiritual world. At the same time, we humbly beg that you always protect us. We are your humble servants, and on your behalf we are managing the universal situation. We, along with our planets and followers, require your constant protection. So Lord Brahma came with the demigods, and he prayed like that to the Supreme Personality of God. And this section is in the Bhagavatam, you can read that. And Krishna says, yes, my manifest Leela has come to an end, my mission has been accomplished, and I will leave this world. And actually told Lord Brahma, on the way to going back to the spiritual world, I will pop into your planet for a little visit. He said like that. I will have a visit to your abode, just a short stopover on the way through, just to have a visit to your abode. So Krishna now was seen by those with the vision that when Krishna left the world, he was seen rising up and going up through the planetary systems, and as I mentioned, he stopped off at the planet of Lord Brahma before going back to his eternal situation. Now, he covered himself, the acharyas explain this, he covered himself with a material body at that time, when he was sitting in meditation with his leg crossed over, he covered himself with a material body because his body is spiritual. Krishna doesn't have a material body like you and I have. Krishna's body is spiritual. So nothing, someone throws an arrow or anything like that, nothing can harm Krishna's body. It's a spiritual body. So he manifested a material body to allow Jara to fire an arrow and pierce his foot. And then he left that body behind. He left that body. So you can understand why this might be misunderstood and taken advantage of by unscrupulous commentators that Krishna's just an ordinary person. He just died like... But he left that body behind and went on in his original spiritual body back to his own abode. Now that body was left behind to confuse those who wanted to believe that type of thing, and also to leave a body behind. Now this is interesting. In the Mahabharata it's mentioned that his principal queens, some of his principal queens, when Arjuna came there, they cremated that body, and some of the queens, like Rukmini, ascended the pyre. The principal queens ascended, some of them, not all of them, some of them ascended the pyre, the funeral pyre, the fire of Krishna's body. They went on voluntarily and ascended that pyre. Others, it is said, others went to the Himalayas and just practiced a life of extreme detachment, just eating fruits and roots and something, and then eventually left the world in that way. Now the other 1,000 queens of Krishna, we know he married 16,108. 8 were principal queens. So the 16,100 were taken by Arjuna back to Hastinapur. He was going to protect them and look after them back in Hastinapur, because by that time, Krishna had said that my abode will go into the ocean. So Arjuna had taken them all, but along the way, we read this, along the way, all of a sudden 16,100 villagers came and attacked the party and stole away the queens. And Arjuna, although a great warrior, could have defended the whole situation, but he had no power. So it's explained that actually those 16,000 villagers were Krishna himself. Expanded come and in the form of villagers to steal away the queens, and so they ended their worldly pastimes in that way. So a very interesting interwoven kind of leelas there. Now it's important for the devotees to understand how Krishna appeared in the world and how he departed from the world. It's not something that his departure from the world is not something that devotees talk about often because it can be misunderstood and so on and so forth. So we more talk about Krishna's appearance. And generally it's like that, as I said, the appearance days of the incarnations, you always read just the appearance. You won't read. Some incarnations just came and they just, they were talking and they just disappeared. There's no formal departure as such. They as everyone was looking, they just disappeared. And so there's no mention of departure, the disappearance day of the incarnations. So, and I found this very interesting, looking into this subject a little bit more deeply. So, we understand in that way, and those who are actually great devotees, they understand in this way. And Prabhupada, of course, he quotes this, Paritanaya sadhunam vinasaya chuduskram dharma samstapanatayam sambhavami juge juge. They're the mission of Krishna, to deliver the pious, to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion. Krishna appears again and again and again and again. So Lord Brahma said, you have accomplished your mission. We pray to you. The mission has been accomplished. Krishna agreed yes, and he arranged everything. So it was all Krishna's arrangement. Previously Gandhari had cursed him, after the battle of Kurukshetra. We know this story from Mahabharata, that she held Krishna responsible for the killing of all her sons. She always thought he could have done more. If he really wanted to, he could have averted the whole war, but he didn't take any action. So when Krishna came to see Dhritarashtra and Gandhari to offer his condolences, she couldn't hold the anger and she cursed him that your whole family, and just as my family has been destroyed, your whole family is going to be destroyed in 36 years. 36 years from now, that'll happen. And she pronounced a curse on him. So Krishna, he just bowed his head and he said, Tatashtu. He just accepted that whatever you say has to come to pass. So he arranged it all. She was impelled to do that by Krishna. people can get impelled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to perform certain things. And Krishna has a greater picture, many things in mind, many things to accomplish. We may see one little corner over here or a little thing like that, but we can't see the totality of what Krishna's arrangement, what Krishna's desire is. So luckily for us, fortunately, the acharyas explain some of the aspects and we get a better understanding. So Hare Krishna, thank you very much. If anyone has got any questions or comments, please feel free to ask.
Maharaj, in this chapter, I think it might be the next verse actually, Prabhupada mentions that when Krishna kills the demons, they enter into the Brahmajyoti. So even though they have demoniac propensity, still because of that connection, they get some benefit. But he also mentions that the impersonalists achieve the same destination. They enter into the Brahmajyoti. So sort of like, it doesn't sound that Krishna thinks very highly of the impersonalists, that they achieve the same destination as the demons.
Well, I mean, sometimes these statements are said in Shastra. There's another type of liberation when Krishna kills an asura, just like it's called Mama Sayuja, where they go into the body, the direct body of Krishna, just like Shishupal. Shishupal, that Krishna sent the Sudarsana Chakra, and his liberation was Mama Sayuja, which Krishna kept him within his own body for some time until he had to appear again. Later he got another opportunity in Jagai Madai in Chaitanya Lila. So Krishna awards, the Shastras may say, give a general answer, a general answer, but according to the individual, it may be a little different. So someone goes to the Brahman, someone goes to Mama Sayuja, someone is given direct, just like Putana received direct liberation as a nurse of Krishna in the Krishna Loka. So, sometimes Shastras will give a general answer and then later on you'll read more specific information in regard to those particular individuals. So that's my understanding of that. Any other question? Comments? Yes, Wajni.
You mentioned about how when the Lord comes in different incarnations, then if you're giving the example of King Bali, he was Jara, and then in another time Krishna appears, then Bhrigu is Jara. What about when we hear, like for example, says Prahlad Maharaj is a personification of 3 different personalities.
Personification of?
He's 3 different personalities, like Lord Brahma and Haridas Thakur and then someone else. So how do we understand
Arjuna. The Gopa. Well, I mean, there's the eternal Prahlad, who is an eternal associate of Lord Nrsimhadev. And then this is explained by the Acharyas. Then often in the Leela, that eternal Prahlad, Krishna allows some other individuals to mix with that eternal associate, due to one reason or other. In the case of Prahlad, there was one Brahmana, Vasushama his name was, who got an opportunity to mix with the eternal Prahlad in the Leela of Lord Nrsimha's pastimes. So sometimes it can be 1 or 2 mixed together, or even 3 in the case of Prahlad Maharaj, and Lord Brahma and Haridas Thakur. So the Gurus explain in that way that sometimes for the purpose of Leela, others are given an opportunity due to their past activities or whatever it was, to get an opportunity to mix with that eternal associate and also get direct association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it's just like I mentioned about the Yadus, some of them were eternal associates of the Lord that came with the Lord from the spiritual realm. Others were the demigods who took birth in his family, where Krishna gave them an opportunity to get that association and be benefited by that association. So there's always a mix. And as I said to Manibanda, the general answers are given in some places and more specific answers are given in other places. So we always have to keep an open mind when we're reading that we read something here, all right, was that the total conclusive thing of it, or is there something else to it? But I better read somewhere else as well. Okay, good. One final question? Yes, please.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
We just had a misunderstanding, I think a few days ago. Krishna appeared in one day of Brahma or every Dvapara Yuga?
Every
Dvapara Yuga appears Krishna, as Krishna. Or only one day, or in 1,000 yugas, or every yuga.
The incarnation of Krishna, yes, that's mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. He appears one day in that particular cycle of the yugas. Krishna appears. There are other incarnations that appear in other days of Brahma and other cycles. But in that one day of Brahma, the personality, the full personality of Godhead, Krishna, the original personality of Godhead from the Goloka Vrindavan, he appears at that time, in that day of Brahma.
So only once in a day of Brahma? Yes.
So we're very lucky, aren't we? We're very lucky. We had Krishna, the original, and then we had Lord Chaitanya. That's a double lucky there. Jai, all glories to Srila Prabhupada ki, Jai, Go Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.